Tyler, the Creator, is an artist whose journey throughout the music game can best be described as a perfect story of immersion. From the horrifying and intrusive nightmare that is Sarah, to the submissive and uplifting stature of Dogtooth, his career has undergone a multitude of changes, making more efforts to diversify his sound throughout his discography, while still keeping a consistent and recognizable style. But it's only been fairly recently in which his skills and expertise have properly been recognized by the general public. Keep in mind that it's only been 3 years since Tyler won his first Grammy, and at that point, he had already been in the game for 13 years, and the Grammy wasn't even in the right category.
Whenever we, and I mean guys that look like me, do anything that's genre bending or that's anything, they always put it in a rap or urban category, which is, and I don't like that urban word, it's just a politically correct way to say the N-word to me. So when I hear that, I'm just like, why can't we just be in pop? Why can't it just, you know what I mean?
Ignoring that achievement, there was obviously a point in between now and 2009 in which Tyler finally found a way to spark immense attention from the people. I'm gonna assume that if you're watching, you have some context to this answer, but for those unsure or unaware, the answer in question happened to be Flower Boy, for lack of better words, was paramount to Tyler's progression and evolution as an artist, pulling away from the bombastic and arguably cluttered conundrum that was Cherry Bomb in favor for a more streamlined, luscious, and vulnerable project. The praise from this release was near a complete 180 from what his previous albums got, not necessarily due to overall ratings or opinions, besides Cherry Bomb, but we'll get to that, but more so the reach that it accumulated. The creation of this 48-minute and 33-second project saw many firsts in Tyler's career, such as his first album being leaked, first platinum certifications, and the shortest album to date at the time. And while there's been many videos deep diving into the intricacies of this release, like its theming, lyrics, and production, I haven't seen many, if any, mention this specific aspect regarding the reason Tyler went with the approach that he did for this project. And to figure that out, we had to go back a little bit. At the beginning of 2018, an interview by the name of Flower Boy The Conversation was released, with Gerard Carmichael interviewing Tyler about his insight and mentality whilst working on the album. And a few minutes in, Tyler says something that's always struck interest in me. When Carmichael inquired Tyler about how to balance Tyler's love for chords with his target audience, this is what he said.
Yeah, well, I fucked up. I didn't fuck up, but Cherry Bomb was hard to get into because it was a whole album of bridges and shit going everywhere. So I was like, okay, let me, for this album specifically, add all the chords I like, but do it in a way they could digest.
And the word digest is what to take note of, because to me it opens a different perspective to the release that many didn't necessarily look into. This demonstration of balance brings up the challenge of compromise. How can you bridge the gap between passion and projection? What I wish to accomplish today is to discuss how Flower Boy is not only a mastery of compromise and balance, but it also mirrors the constant internal struggles of artists in a world whose platforms and organizations can easily corrode one's sense of authenticity. So without further ado, let's get into it. So, allow me to elaborate. Flower Boy in retrospect was a paradigm shift in Tyler's career, aiming for a more mature and introspective body of work. The 14 tracks encompass topics such as assurance, confidence, avoidance, and acceptance. Up until this point, fans had only seen snippets and one-offs of this type of sound from various projects, but now there's a whole album to enjoy with that gentle feel. But where do these two words fit into the release? Here's where the compromise comes in. From the excerpt I played earlier, one of Tyler's goals was to make music that was more digestible, as his last project was more of a polarizing experiment than anything in my opinion. Cherry Bomb, often seen by people as either a beautiful mess or a sequential disaster, was Tyler's undertaking into a multitude of different genres and sounds. A stark contrast from his previous projects like Goblin and Wolf, Tyler decided to pair distorted noise rock along with Fletch's R&B and rap, in which some of his decisions were understandably frustrating. This 4-track run in particular gets on my nerves. Going from the gentle and soothing vocals of Find Your Wings to getting punched with a bombastic powerhouse that is the titular track signifies many people's issues with this album. The constant ups and downs and shifting contrasts throughout tune many away due to a lack of cohesion and arguably focus. While Cherry Bomb has garnered more appreciation in the following years due to its experimentation, raw energy, and Tyler's gathering of features, at the time the album was very mixed, and the reception of not only the project but his persona was enough of a motivator for him to step back and focus, and his next album will be the result of that epiphany. In an interview with Fantastic Man, Tyler describes Flower Boy in the following quote. Pause to read. This quote summarizes both terms in the video, but I'll start with the first one. This first sentence from the excerpt always stuck out to me. Going into a direct comparison to Cherry Bomb, Flower Boy is significantly stripped back in variety, but increasingly vibrant in sound, using strings, guitars, piano, synths, and drums to express the thoughts and feelings that Tyler was going through at the time. Thoughts of boredom, butterflies, cars, love, and etc. are constant throughout the lyrics, immediately allowing more people to relate to these songs. This is followed by his more conventional approach in rapping and singing on the project. Tyler specifically cites Mr. Lonely as a track with some of the prettiest chords, kind of back behind the drums in his flow. But this change in direction can immediately be found in the first song, Forward, with Tyler rapping over a sampled loop from the krautrock band Can. Combining its wonky tempo, Tyler's chilling lyrics, and Rex Orange County's bridge and outro, the listener immediately feels a wave of intrigue and comfort as compared to the constant and overpowering riffs that Def Camp captured. The listener is led on instead of pushed in, if that makes any sense. However, this is where the balance is introduced, in both features and instrumentation. One of my favorite things about music is the room for interpretation that it offers for different genres. The features on a track can simply complement the artist, or in some cases, overtake the track or make the song worse. There isn't much quantitatively to criticize in quality, but rather length, which can be used to his advantage or detriment. Tyler to me has always been a master sequencer, being able to curate and organize artists perfectly in his songs for different features. One of his more well-known examples would be NBA YoungBoy's feature on What's Your Name. This wasn't a groundbreaking revelation that changed the trajectory of his career or anything crazy like that, but I imagine that a lot of people gained more respect for the artist after how well his cadence and singing complemented Tyler's lyrics. And I believe the skill really shines on Flower Boy, but something's different. Going back to the Conversation interview, Tyler explains that for this album, he would let the features take up the majority of the runtime. And yeah, there's very much a disparity between how much the features say and how much Tyler says. But to those who listen to his discography or even just this album, notice how none of his lyrics are lost between everyone and everything else. Whilst Rex Orange County and Anna of the North take the intro and chorus, Tyler sprinkles in two verses and takes reign of the outro, but you probably remember the lyrics. When Estelle takes the majority of control on Garden Shed, with her angelic vocals and slow tempo guitar throughout the instrumental, Tyler pops in on the second verse, putting all attention on his most vulnerable track at the time. And his delivery, his flow, his bravery in this song is simply unforgettable. What Tyler demonstrates throughout this album is a total mastery of presence. Despite rapping for only about 30% of this album, every verse he curated is ingrained into every listener's minds. When I first listened to Flower Boy a few years back, I always thought of this album formatted similarly to a musical. Admittedly, some of the reason behind this conclusion was from the amount of strings, but also the use of its ensemble cast. This feature list is stacked, though admittedly not as impressive as Cherry Bomb's. I think Flower Boy's features were better utilized, mainly due to the mixing, because I don't care what anybody says, the mixing in Cherry Bomb is trash.
Why you booing me? I'm right.
All the ensemble takes enough time in their respective songs, but when the time comes for the main character, the main event, everyone stops and listens, everyone pays attention. You truly follow Tyler's mind process throughout this period, and by the time the final track plays, which could be seen as a final balance type of track, you truly feel like you've taken a journey with a satisfying beginning, middle, and end. So, what point does this album make in all this? Tyler was able to create an album with some of his most satisfying and fulfilling sounds sonically, while simplifying them enough in order for a wider audience to enjoy. In gathering some of the most renowned and polished artists at the time to accompany his tracks, he allowed his presence to take a step back as a way to ease his audience. He doesn't hold back with any of the subject matters discussed, and his voice is softer, more gentle, but will switch to a more confident and braggadocious nature when need be, giving multiple crowds something to enjoy. What I believe Tyler does on the album Flower Boy is essentially compromising some of his variety and presence in favor for a more streamlined and comfortable listen, except for where it counts. For See You Again, there's a Who That Boy. For a track like Boredom, there's an I Ain't Got Time. For Mr. Lonely, there's a Drop in Seeds. And notice how all of these pairs are listed next to each other in the album. All of them bring about different highs and lows of energy, but it feels cohesive and fitting enough to where you're not overwhelmed. This is what I believe to be a mastery of compromise and balance, that I haven't seen too many people point out, at least specifically. But how does this relationship transcend past the album? Music in particular is an art form widely discussed for its relationships between the artist and the label. I already briefly mentioned this in my stat boosting video, but labels in particular have found many ways to maximize profit with other hollow methods, often to the detriment of the musician. Many musicians, especially female artists, have seen a disproportionately higher call-out rate to their labels for mistreatment, whether it be authentically or financially. Artists like Brent Faiyaz and Chance the Rapper have emphasized in the past to own your masters. This conversation can lead to many different topics such as selling your soul, but I am not going for that. Well, I myself am no A&R or businessman. It's safe to say that the potential for many music labels can very much lead to shady and at times deplorable actions. And this sort of transcends past music. The commodifying of art as a whole and integrating of commerce has reaped the benefits of profit whilst not giving the respect that these artists deserve, with very few being able to come out and express their grievances. And that's without mentioning the consequences that come with doing so. However, there's a certain group that I feel pushes away from this action entirely, but they aren't musicians, or well, most of them aren't anyway. The collective in particular happens to be No, just hear me out for a second. RDC World, for those unaware, is a collective most well known for their skits and short films, pulling multiple avenues of pop culture like movies and anime to create either one-offs or whole series based on different properties. But one of their motives that I've seen is to champion authenticity and quality above all else. The ringleader of this group, Mark Phillips, has declared on a multitude of occasions to refuse to change his image for anyone. In fact, I'll give you a few examples right now.
To be completely honest, we get a lot of deals from our social medias and stuff. So, cause we say bad words on YouTube, so they always try to drop our money.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So we don't be really making a lot on YouTube all the time. Just like Anime House, that shit don't make no money, nigga. We fucking using real anime themes and shit. We just got Anime House 4 back up because they took it down.
Fight of our lives.
Fight of our lives. And they made us pay money to get it back up. Money to put our video back up.
Ridiculous.
And it wasn't no small, it was a 5-figure number. That's what I'll say. Mm-hmm. That's ridiculous, yes. But we paid it to put Anime House back up. I just want niggas to know that before they say, why should we do all that? Alright. We always took the path to just make great content. I'm not capping. Like, nigga, all our shit got demonetized. Every single fucking thing. But I never complained. All I was like, shit, fuck it. Bop! I'm gonna take your ass off your feet, boy.
There's a certain video taken from a VOD of their streams that perfectly captures this point, but since it's nearly an hour long, allow me to summarize. Mark and the group essentially detail the struggles and hardships they face within the first few years of their social media careers, citing sleeping on air mattresses, finding a background with bootleg Ratatouille. Basically, they was in the trenches, bruh. Yeah. But Mark said that their priority since the beginning was to create quality content first, without turning down their true selves, and there were consequences to that. If you check out some of their most viral and iconic series on YouTube, if you check the description, you'll see that there's a song name at the bottom marked in blue. Now, depending on where the song comes from, this isn't always the case, but 90% of the time, their video will be claimed for the music they used, which meant little, if any, money was made off that video. Now, imagine dealing with that cycle for 3 to 4 years, and that basically detailed the first few years of the group's career, constantly striving for realness in the production auditions with initially little to no payoff, and yet they still got featured in the premier associations for football and basketball in America. They still got to create their own con when nobody invited them to other cons. By the way, I am mad envious of anyone who managed to cop a DreamCon ticket. Maybe MomoCon next year. I don't know. Sadness aside, while writing the script to this video, I happen to remember that Mark and Tyler actually met up at a party a few months ago, and this image pretty much symbolizes the point I'm trying to make. Both have different journeys, approaches, and connections to their craft, but still manage to get to the same point. The path to achieving your goals is very much long and arduous, but there are different choices one must make to get to their idea of success. It's what you're willing to compromise or sacrifice in order to get to that level, which leaves me and you a question. If you were given the chance of success, would you rather compromise the bag for quality content and build a locked-in base of supporters to keep you up? Or would you rather compromise some of the authenticity in your art in order to gain a larger reach with more sets of opportunities? It sounds like an easy answer, but you'd be surprised how mixed people's answers may be. And this album reminds me of this question with its background, intentional or not, highlighting the back and forth between the prioritizing of commerce and creativity, as well as openness and optimizing. But that's just my interpretation of it all. Hey everyone, so this wasn't supposed to be my next video, but here we are. I started the script on a random Friday and kind of just kept going from there. Let me know down below in the comments whether or not I make any sort of sense or if it's just incredible reaching. I'm interested to see what you have to say. Also, thank you so much for 50 subscribers. This may sound kind of corny, but I don't really care. I know it's a small number relatively, but I really do appreciate the support this channel's gotten so far. Here's to a tight-knit and positive community and more success, of course, or whatever this channel becomes. Follow my socials. I have a link tree in the description or something if you want. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, bye.